My sister-in-law, swayed by online rumors, became convinced that drinking more alcohol during pregnancy could give birth to a wine fairy baby. She replaced water with alcohol every day, drinking herself into a stupor. I warned her that excessive alcohol intake could easily lead to poor fetal development or even birth defects. After researching a wealth of information to support my argument, I finally persuaded her to terminate the pregnancy, as the fetus had no heartbeat. I spent money and effort taking care of her during her postpartum confinement, and on the day she completed it, she pushed me down the stairs when I wasn't paying attention. The shopkeeper said that as long as I keep drinking until I give birth, my baby will be a legendary figure no less than Shakespeare or Shelley. You're just jealous of me, so you killed my baby. I want you to pay with your life. She coldly watched me die and then fake my death as an accidental fall. I watched her putting on a show, crying in front of my grave, and I felt nothing but overwhelming rage. Little did I expect that when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my sister-in-law announced she was pregnant. This time, I really want to see what kind of thing you give birth to. Julia, can you help me check if it's 2 lines? Am I pregnant? Hearing my sister-in-law Rose's familiar words, I realized I had been reborn, in my previous life, after Rose became pregnant. She started drinking. She said she had met a wine seller online who claimed that drinking his wine would give birth to a wine fairy baby. Such a baby would not only be able to write poetry and compose music but could even grow up to become a legendary figure like a modern Shakespeare or Shelley. To convince Rose, the seller cited several well-known figures, saying their mothers had drunk during pregnancy, allowing the trace elements in the wine to nourish their brains and make their children smarter than ordinary people. Rose was so tempted that, persuaded by the shopkeeper, she immediately spent over 10,000 yuan to buy 20 kilograms of wine to drink. The wine was directly stored in mineral water bottles, with a greenish-yellow color, and it emitted a strange odor as soon as it was opened. How could such a product without any certification be consumed? Yet Rose seemed to be under a spell and drank 2 kilograms in one go. By the time I found out, Rose had already finished the 20 kilograms of wine, and the 50 kilograms she had reordered was still on the way. The first 3 months of pregnancy are especially crucial, so I didn't dare let her act recklessly and immediately took her to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor said the fetal heartbeat was already very weak, and the fetus was also underdeveloped, recommending hospitalization for fetal preservation and close monitoring of the baby's condition. Unexpectedly, as soon as I went to handle the discharge procedures, Rose ran back home to collect a delivery, secretly continuing to drink the wine that had been mailed to her. Finally, the baby lost its heartbeat due to all the turmoil, and the doctor recommended immediate surgery to prevent any danger to the mother. But Rose refused to believe that the child was gone and insisted on keeping it inside her. I had no choice but to look up a lot of information to explain the dangers of retaining a stillborn fetus in the womb, and finally, she agreed to undergo surgery to remove it. Feeling sorry for her, I spent money and effort to take care of her after the surgery to prevent any lasting health issues. I thought she would come to her senses after this ordeal, but to my surprise, she was still secretly in touch with the online liquor seller. The other party swore that this was a normal phenomenon, that the child was not dead but was absorbing the nutrients from the wine to transform. Rose completely believed the shopkeeper's words, to the point of harboring hatred towards me. After her postpartum confinement, she heartlessly pushed me down the stairs. My head slammed hard against the floor, and blood instantly stained the ground red. Trembling, I wanted Rose to save me, but she coldly said, "The shopkeeper said that since I started drinking from early pregnancy all the way until giving birth, the baby I gave birth to would surely be a modern-day Shakespeare. You're just jealous of me, which is why you killed my child. Now you can go down and accompany him." I died with deep resentment, my soul floating in midair as I watched Rose spread the word that I had committed suicide out of guilt for causing the death of her child. My parents, weeping, came from our hometown to arrange my funeral. My brother, meanwhile, comforted the hypocritically weeping Rose. Witnessing all of this, I felt an overwhelming surge of hatred. Fortunately, heaven has given me another chance. This time, I really want to see if Rose, after drinking so much cheap fake wine, can actually give birth to a wine immortal. Rose noticed I was lost in thought and gently patted my shoulder. "Julia, what are you thinking about? I'm asking you something." I snapped back to reality and looked at Rose, wearing a bright smile just like in my past life, and said, "It really does look like 2 lines. Congratulations, sister-in-law, on your pregnancy. That's wonderful. I'm going to be an aunt." Rose was both excited and happy. She gently touched her belly, radiating the glow of maternal love. Suddenly remembering something, she looked up and asked me, I heard there's a kind of wine that, if a pregnant woman drinks it, she can give birth to a wine fairy baby, a child who can compose poetry in 7 steps, sing, and dance. Do you think that's true? I lowered my eyes slightly and replied evasively, the world is full of wonders, and I'm not really sure whether such a thing exists or not. Rose grew a bit anxious. She took out her phone, pulled up that social media post, and pointed at the caption, saying, look, this is exactly what it says. Drinking this wine can help you give birth to a wine fairy baby, with the talent of Shakespeare, the literary brilliance of Shelley, extraordinary intelligence, and destined to become a renowned figure of the generation. If I drink this wine and give birth to a little wine fairy, I'll be famous all over the world and never have to worry about food or clothing for the rest of my life. I smiled and said, this wine is really something, unlike in my previous life. I didn't argue that this social media post was exaggerated. Instead, I went along with what she said, but Rose hesitated a bit. She opened the image attached to the post and said with uncertainty, but this wine looks so colorful, not much like wine at all. Plus, I don't even know this person, and I'm not sure how we became friends. I have no idea if their product is reliable. I'm pregnant now. What if eating these unregulated products affects the baby? I didn't pay attention to her words. It turns out she knew all these reasons, but in her previous life, she thought I was opposing her to harm her. So she was biased and went against me, blindly believing what the shopkeeper said. But now that I'm not opposing her, she's fallen into self-doubt again. Rose seemed unable to make up her mind. She pressed me, asking, Julia, why aren't you saying anything? They say pregnancy can make you a bit slow for 3 years. Tell me, is what this person said true? If I drink this, will I give birth to a baby as talented as the wine immortal? What if it doesn't work? Oh, I'm so conflicted. You're the baby's aunt, and I trust you. Please, give me some advice. Hearing Rose's words, my heart turned cold. She was trying to shift the risk onto me. If I encouraged her to drink this wine and something happened to her, I would undoubtedly be the first to be blamed. After all, I agreed, if I don't let her drink, and the child is born with mediocre talent, she'll think it's because I stopped her from making the baby a legendary wine connoisseur. This time, I've learned my lesson and won't take the bait. I played dumb and said, sis, you know I don't know anything about this. I don't even drink milk tea, so how would I know about wine? If you ask me what we're having for dinner tonight, I can tell you that, and you already have that person's WeChat, so go ask them. They know their own wine best, and if you're genuinely interested in buying, they'll surely tell you everything they know. If you're really worried, you can also ask them to send you a photo of their ID or business license, so you have something to go on if you need to pursue it later. Rose thought my words made a lot of sense and told me to hurry out to buy groceries and cook for her. Then, with a smile, she sat on the sofa, hugged her phone, and started messaging that person. No longer paying any attention to me, I glanced at her sideways, turned my head, and went out to buy groceries. In my previous life, I was so frustrated. Now that I've been reborn, I'm definitely going to buy more of the dishes I love. When I came back from buying groceries, Rose was still sitting on the sofa chatting on WeChat. It wasn't until I finished cooking and brought out the bowls and chopsticks that Rose slowly made her way over from the sofa. As soon as she saw the dishes on the table, she frowned and said, why are we having salt-baked chicken and braised duck today? I already told you I'm trying to lose weight, so I can only eat vegetarian for dinner, not meat. Rose has created a diet plan to maintain her figure. This diet plan isn't just for her alone, the whole family has to join her, with the excuse that she can't lose weight if she smells the aroma of other foods. To accommodate her, everyone has to eat vegetarian meals with her at every meal. Having suffered from this in my past life, I won't indulge her this time. I placed a raw cabbage directly in front of her. This is your dinner. All of that is for me. If you can't stand the smell, you can go back to your room and gnaw on it. Rose was furious. She slapped the table and pointed at me, shouting, Julia, what do you mean by this? I'm pregnant, and you won't even cook for me. You're making me eat raw cabbage. How dare you treat me like this? Aren't you afraid I'll tell your brother? My brother had taken on a project and had to go on a business trip for 6 months. Before leaving, he carefully reminded me to take good care of Rose, but now, I'm taking care of her. My foot, I slowly and deliberately picked up a chicken leg and took a bite, mumbling with my mouth full, didn't you say you were going to eat a diet meal? I heard online that eating raw cabbage is the easiest way to lose weight. You can drop 10 pounds in a month, no problem. I picked out a big, round one just for you because I care about you. If you don't want it, give it back to me. I reached out with my greasy hand to take the cabbage, but Rose hugged it tightly and glared at me fiercely, saying, "If I don't lose weight, you'll see if I don't come after you." I shrugged, feeling there was no need to argue with someone who wasn't thinking clearly. Even while pregnant, Rose insisted on dieting, and combined with the cheap alcohol she drank, it led to the loss of the baby's heartbeat before she was even 2 months along. Good words can't persuade a doomed ghost. "I'll just eat and drink well myself." Rose glared at me fiercely while looking at the cabbage. Halfway through chewing, her phone started beeping. She quickly grabbed her phone with one hand, held the cabbage with the other, and sat back on the sofa, not knowing what the other person had said. She seemed to finally make up her mind, turned her head, and shouted at me, "Give me 10,000 yuan, don't say you don't have it, before your brother left." I saw with my own eyes that he slipped you a bank card. My brother did indeed slip me a card. It was for Rose's living expenses while she stayed with me. In my previous life, to prevent Rose from being scammed, I refused to give her the 10,000 yuan. Unexpectedly, she called my brother and accused me of mistreating her. Later, my brother transferred 10,000 yuan to her and scolded me harshly. Now that she asked me, I didn't care about my greasy hands at all. I took my phone and transferred 20,000 yuan to her without a second thought. Drink up, have some more." Rose was happy after receiving the money. She took a big bite of raw cabbage and then frantically sent messages to the other person. After that, I left early and returned late every day to avoid too much contact with Rose, but I was also worried that Rose might cause some trouble, so while she was away, I secretly installed surveillance cameras in every corner of the house. Some things are better safe than sorry. A week later, the special wine Rose had ordered, which was said to help give birth to a wine fairy baby, finally arrived. When I entered the house, Rose was just unpacking the delivery. It's still the same plastic bottle, filled to the brim with a colorful liquid, with a few unknown objects floating sporadically inside. There are no labels or markings on the outside of the bottle. As soon as Rose opened the lid, the pungent and foul smell filled the entire house. Even standing at the doorway, I felt the odor rushing straight to the top of my head, covering my nose. I asked, "Did you buy a poison gas bomb? Why does it smell so strong?" Rose's face turned rather unpleasant from the fumes, but after hearing my words, she gritted her teeth and said, "What poison gas bomb? This is a treasure I spent a fortune on. The shopkeeper said that as long as I drink this wine until I give birth, I'll give birth to a modern Shakespeare or a modern Shelley. Just wait and see. You better start buttering me up now and listen to me, because from now on, you'll be relying on me to get by." Her smug expression made it seem as if the child she was bound to have would definitely achieve great success. Standing at the front door with my arms crossed, I teased Rose mischievously, "Wow, that's amazing. Why don't you take a couple of sips first to test the effects? The sooner you drink it, the sooner the baby can absorb the nutrients inside, and maybe it'll become even smarter." Rose hesitated a bit, staring at the plastic bottle in front of her, her face filled with struggle. Finally, she made up her mind, closed her eyes, and took a small sip, before she could even swallow what was in her mouth. I saw her expression change drastically. She covered her mouth and rushed toward the bathroom. Ugh. Ugh. I rolled my eyes toward the ceiling, covered my nose, went over to tighten the lid, then opened the windows and doors to air out the smell. Rose had already finished vomiting and returned. She lay half dead on the sofa, fuming. "I must have been scammed. I'm going to settle the score with him right now." I just watched silently without saying a word. Unexpectedly, the next day, before I could be woken up by the alarm clock, I was roused by a foul stench. I covered my nose and walked out, just in time to see Rose carrying out a large bowl of colorful liquid. She looked at me proudly. "Yesterday, I didn't understand how to drink this stuff properly. I've already asked the shop owner for clarification. Just wait, I'm sure I'll give birth to a modern Shakespeare." After saying that, Rose closed her eyes and gulped down the entire bowl of colorful liquid. The moment she finished drinking, I could see she was about to vomit, but she quickly bit into raw cabbage to suppress the nausea. She proudly boasted to me. The seller assured me that the product is absolutely fine. He even showed me his business license and ID card, and there are celebrities ordering wine from him. If I hadn't been lucky, I would have had to wait a long time to snag this wine. "You treat me so poorly that even my future child won't be close to you. Just wait until you're crying and kneeling before me, begging for my mercy." I looked at her expressionlessly. "Maybe I should start crying and begging you to drink more right now." I turned and left, going about my own life, eating, drinking, and working as usual, letting Rose do whatever she wanted to herself. Soon, the news of Rose's pregnancy became known to the rest of the family, and my brother even made time to call me. Since I'm not there for Rose's first pregnancy, I'll have to trouble you to take care of her. Just buy her whatever she wants to eat or drink, and don't worry about the cost. I heard she's been drinking some kind of alcohol. Do you know what's going on? I looked it up online, and it's not recommended for pregnant women to drink. Since you're at home, please help me persuade her. The baby should come first in everything. She can drink however she wants after giving birth. I played dumb and said, my company just landed a major project, so I've been working overtime to meet targets lately. I haven't had much time at home and don't know what she's up to. But I gave my sister-in-law 20,000 yuan. If she wants to eat or drink anything, she can just order it herself. Although it's my sister-in-law's first time being a mother, isn't it said that maternal instinct is innate? I'm sure she can take care of herself. My brother sounded both helpless and resigned. After a few more reminders, he hung up the phone. I held the phone, my eyes icy cold. I used the excuse of having a heavy workload to move out of my home and directly moved into the company dormitory. Without my intervention, Rose became even more unrestrained in her drinking, often spending the whole day with that liquid in her arms. I occasionally checked the surveillance footage to see her latest changes. Rose must have gotten used to the taste, or perhaps her desire was too strong, as within a few days she no longer needed to chew cabbage to suppress the flavor. Rose never had a job to begin with, and after marrying my brother, she just stayed at home. She doesn't do any housework either, just expects food to be served to her every day. Now that I'm not around, she's too lazy to order takeout every day. As soon as she wakes up, she drinks that alcohol, then passes out, and when she wakes up, she drinks again. It hasn't even been a week, and she's already completely changed. The hair became sparse, the eye sockets sunken, the cheekbones protruding. The person had become as thin as a skeleton, and patches of colorful spots had grown on the skin, looking absolutely terrifying. After she lost weight, her stomach appeared to protrude. I took a deep look at her stomach and actually began to feel a sense of anticipation. I kept using work as an excuse, and when Rose had no one to take care of her, she would go and bother my brother. My brother, unable to handle her pestering, had to finish his work as quickly as possible and rush back. I specifically took half a day off and hid in the dorm, keeping an eye on the surveillance just to see the moment the couple met. Around 3 p.m., my brother came back pushing his suitcase. As soon as he entered, he covered his nose and frowned deeply. What's that awful smell? Has Julia really not bothered to call someone to fix the broken sewer pipe at home? My brother pushed his luggage aside and took out his phone, about to call the property management. The phone hadn't been dialed yet when suddenly, something flashed before his eyes. A strangely shaped object clung to him. My brother screamed in terror. A ghost! There's a ghost! Rose instantly grew angry, pointing at my brother and scolding him weakly. What ghost? It's me. Can't you even recognize your own wife? My brother pointed at her in horror, covering his nose and mouth, not daring to speak for a long time. I laughed so hard in front of my phone screen that my stomach hurt. Just looking at my brother's expression tells you how awful Rose smells. It's a wonder Rose hasn't noticed it at all for so long. My brother took several steps back, all the way to the main entrance. He covered his mouth and nose with his clothes and asked, slurring his words, "What's that smell all over you? How long has it been since you last showered? Go wash up properly before you come talk to me." Rose explained that it was the smell of alcohol, saying she had drunk so much that it had seeped into her skin, but my brother wouldn't listen and insisted that Rose go take a shower. Rose had no choice but to lower her head and head to the bathroom. After Rose left, my brother came into the room wearing 3 layers of masks, opening windows, doors, and spraying perfume all at once. After a flurry of activity, he felt the smell had faded and finally took off his masks. Meanwhile, Rose had already finished her shower and came out. She was wearing her usual spaghetti-strap nightgown, with her hair down, taking small, quick steps toward my brother. She tried to strike the same graceful poses as before, but she had lost too much weight and was in poor condition, making those alluring gestures look utterly ridiculous. She wanted to snuggle into my brother's arms, but before she could get close, he pushed her away. "How did you become like this? And what are those things on your skin? Didn't I tell you to take a bath? Didn't you wash properly?" My brother stared at the colorful spots on her exposed arm, frowning deeply. Rose grew nervous and stammered, "These grew from inside my body. They can't be wiped off. Honey, maybe you should check on the baby. The baby is still doing fine in my belly." Rose revealed her slightly protruding belly, which was covered in spots. My brother wasn't so foolish as to not notice something was wrong when he saw Rose like this. He decisively took Rose to the hospital. After they left, I turned off my phone. It wasn't until the evening that my brother called me. "Sis, if you have time, come to the hospital and talk some sense into your sister-in-law. She insists that the baby in her belly is the wine immortal, a modern-day Shakespeare. No matter what I say, she won't listen. She refuses to let the doctors examine her or take any medication. I really don't understand why she's become like this." I also wanted to know what had happened next, so I agreed to go see my brother. I went to the hospital after finishing my meal and happened to run into Rose going crazy in the ward. She swept everything in the ward onto the floor, screaming, "You just want to kill my child." I've already asked the shop owner, and he said all of this is normal. "You're jealous that I can give birth to a modern wine fairy baby. You people are truly evil-hearted, and you'll die a terrible death. Give me wine, I want to drink. Hurry up and give me wine." My brother suppressed his temper and advised, "First, let the doctor examine you. If there's really something wrong with the baby, we can treat it in time. Besides, with so many spots on your body, wearing a skirt doesn't look good either. Just let the doctor check what's going on with your body, okay?" Rose, her eyes bloodshot, screamed at my brother, "Ugh, how could you, as the child's father, trust these quack doctors over me? I've already said I'm fine, and the baby is fine too. You just don't believe I can give birth to a wine fairy baby. You and your sister are both scum, go to hell." My brother tried to persuade her a few more times, but Rose clearly wasn't listening and continued to rage in the hospital room. When my brother saw me arrive, it was as if he had seen a savior. He hurriedly pulled me aside and asked, "What exactly happened to your sister-in-law? Do you know what she drank that made her like this?" I didn't reveal everything, only the part one was supposed to know. When sister-in-law was just pregnant, she heard about a wine online that could make the baby as talented as Shakespeare or Shelley. She spent a lot of money to buy it and drank it. I tried to stop her, but she wouldn't listen. Later, I got busy with work and didn't keep an eye on her. My brother seemed to have found a clue and quickly pressed further. "Do you have the contact information for the seller? I'll go ask them what exactly is going on." I shrugged and said straightforwardly, "My sister-in-law thinks I'm jealous of her, so she always drinks behind my back. How could she possibly give me the contact information of the shop?" My brother instantly deflated. He sat on the hospital bench, covering his face in despair, and said, "It's all my fault for spending too little time at home. If I could have squeezed out more time to accompany Rose, maybe she wouldn't have ended up like this." I didn't know how to comfort my brother either. After all, in my opinion, Rose's current situation is entirely her own fault. She was so determined to have a unique child that she blindly listened to others' nonsense. It suddenly dawned on me that if Rose, who was right beside us, could be like this, what about others? Was that shop selling fake and inferior products also deceiving several innocent people at the same time, making them buy his counterfeit alcohol and ruining their health? Thinking a step further, if that shopkeeper hadn't fabricated lies to deceive Rose, in my past life, I wouldn't have been pushed down the stairs by her. In terms of plotting against me, if Rose is guilty, then the shop selling fake wine is equally guilty. After thinking it through, I am no longer confused. I reached out and patted my brother's shoulder, saying, "In her current state, asking her anything probably won't get you an answer. If you really want to know what happened, you can't just take her for a checkup. You need to go along with her, coax her, and get the shop's WeChat contact. Once we add WeChat, we can ask in detail. Only by getting the WeChat contact can we follow the trail and track down that unscrupulous shop owner." My brother seemed to snap out of it, calmly responding, "Let's call the police first." My brother and I divided the tasks. He went to comfort Rose and get her WeChat, while I sat on a stool to call the police. The police arrived quickly. I was outside the hospital room giving my statement, telling the police everything I knew and suspected. After finishing the statement, the police and I waited together for my brother to come out. My brother stayed in the ward for nearly half an hour before he finally walked out, his face pale. I quickly went up to him, and he smiled, saying, "Got the WeChat?" I breathed a sigh of relief. As long as we got the WeChat, the plan was more than halfway to success. Next, it was my turn to go undercover, add the store's WeChat, and order the wine. That netizen was very cautious. I added them for several days but still didn't get approved. Just as things were about to stall here, my brother secretly took Rose's phone. Over the past few days, Rose has been in the hospital, smashing things and pulling her hair, insisting that my brother bring the alcohol from home for her to drink. If my brother didn't agree, she would bang her head against the wall, act crazy, and then wrap herself tightly in the blanket, sniffling and shivering. She seemed a bit crazy, and my brother was worried she might do something rash. He asked the doctor for medication and put a sedative in her water cup. After she drank it, he watched her fall into a deep sleep. Only then did my brother seize the opportunity to take Rose's phone out. My brother still knew Rose's unlock password. After opening it, he found the store owner's WeChat. Scrolling through the chat history, the more we read, the more shocked my brother and I became. At first, the shopkeeper fabricated stories to deceive Rose. Later, after drinking the wine, Rose seemed to be under a spell, periodically craving it intensely. After drinking, she would feel a light, floating sensation. Initially, Rose also felt something was off and went to ask the shopkeeper. However, the shopkeeper gaslighted her in reverse, claiming it was the power of his wine. He even warned that if she gave up halfway, the baby, lacking sufficient nutrients from the wine, would become a fool, fearing that her dream of having a wine fairy baby would shatter. Rose stopped asking further questions. Instead, she anxiously urged the shopkeeper to ship the wine as soon as she finished drinking. The shopkeeper's inferior wine was sold at a high price. Initially, it was 10,000 for 20 kilograms of wine, but later the price nearly doubled. In the most recent transfer, Rose spent 80,000 yuan to buy 10 kilograms of wine. It hasn't been many days, so I guess the wine is either still on the way or has just been delivered, while Rose was asleep. My brother immediately contacted a doctor to have her examined. I took the phone and, imitating Rose's tone, asked the shop to send over another 20 kilograms of wine. The shopkeeper was no pushover either, and retorted, "Didn't you just sign for the 10 pounds I sent you? You haven't even tasted the wine yet, so why are you ordering so much? The wine I brew takes time. It's not something you can just ask for and get." The corner of my mouth twitched. I really didn't have any intention of wanting it. If I hadn't been unable to find out where he shipped from, I wouldn't have bothered arguing with him so much. With the police's permission, I persistently pestered the shopkeeper to ship my order. The shop promised to ship within 3 days, but I know that the longer it takes, the more unpredictable things can become, so I imitated Rose's tone and threw a tantrum, typing out a flurry of words to him. Essentially, I scolded the shop for having no conscience and showing no understanding of my desire to see my child succeed. The shopkeeper remained silent for a while before quoting a price of 20,000 per kg of wine. I turned to look at the police, and they seemed hesitant too. Coincidentally, at that moment, Rose's blood test results came out. Seeing the glaringly positive result, the police decisively told me, "Give it to him." I immediately transferred 100,000 yuan to buy 5 kilograms of the wine. 3 hours later, the shopkeeper informed me that the shipment had been sent and even provided me with a tracking number. I immediately took a screenshot and sent him a confirmation. Then the shopkeeper quickly withdrew the tracking number. I sent the picture to the police, and from then on, I left the rest to them. I returned to the ward and stood by my brother's side. Rose stayed in the hospital for a few days and went crazy for just as many, even while sleeping. She was constantly on guard against anyone getting close. Having taken the sedative, she fell into a deep sleep. No matter how the medical staff moved her, she showed no reaction at all. My brother looked at the stack of test results, his face filled with self-blame. "It's my fault for not taking good care of her. It's all my fault. If I had cared more about her, the baby in her belly wouldn't have been lost. Her health wouldn't have been ruined, and she wouldn't have gotten hooked on that stuff." Rose had been drinking that wine without eating much, and the baby in her womb had long lost its heartbeat. It was just that she was so thin that it gave the illusion the baby was still growing. The spots on her body are all mold, probably from drinking that wine. Every part of her body has some issues, and she'll likely have to spend a long time soaking in medicine from now on. The most important thing is that she became addicted to that wine. I sighed, patted my brother's shoulder, and comforted him, saying, "It's good that she's okay. Her health can be slowly restored. The most important thing is to catch that shop owner and prevent him from harming others." My brother forced himself to perk up, giving me a smile that looked worse than crying, and said, "I still need to stay with Rose. Sister, I'll leave this matter to you." I nodded, agreeing to take on this matter. I was just leaving the hospital and about to head back to the company when the shop owner suddenly accepted my WeChat friend request. Rose's phone, which she used to contact the shop owner, had already been confiscated by the police, so I didn't even have time to check the shop owner's WeChat moments. Now that he had accepted my request, I didn't want to chat with him too much. I just glanced at his WeChat moments and turned off my phone. It's all about the effects of alcohol and celebrity endorsements, not worth reading. I added a policewoman on WeChat, and she told me some follow-up information. The police traced the shipping source using the tracking number I provided. They busted that small-scale alcohol production workshop and seized a large quantity of addictive drugs. The shopkeeper added addictive drugs to the wine, so that once someone drank it, they would have to keep drinking. Otherwise they would go mad and feel as if ants were crawling all over their body, and precisely because of this, Rose kept wanting to drink. In my previous life, I discovered it early, and her addiction wasn't severe, but in this life, after I ignored her, her addiction clearly worsened, so later, even when the shopkeeper kept raising the price, she had to grit her teeth and buy it because of her addiction, and because the wine was made without any regard for hygiene, using dirty water. Rose drank unclean wine and ended up covered in mold. Unfortunately, the baby in her belly ultimately did not survive. Due to the seriousness of the matter, this incident was reported, and various media outlets also shared the story to warn the public not to blindly believe such baseless claims. My brother also took a short leave to accompany Rose as she recovered her health. At first, Rose was still acting a bit crazy, but after she woke up from her drowsiness one afternoon, she suddenly stopped being crazy. She calmly discussed with my brother, "Husband, you've been working so hard for my sake all this time, why not let your sister come keep me company?" I heard she contributed a lot of ideas in the case of cracking down on counterfeit alcohol. "I've been in the hospital for so long and I'm feeling a bit bored. Let her come keep me company and tell me about the case to pass the time." My brother agreed and immediately called me. I found it a bit strange. Whether it was before Rose went crazy or after, my feelings for her weren't that deep. I had a vague feeling that something was off about her, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I decided to be cautious and bought a pinhole camera to hang around my neck. After making all the preparations, I bought a fruit basket and went to the hospital to see her. When I arrived, Rose had already regained consciousness, and my brother was by her side. My brother said he was going to buy some snacks for us and then left. He left me alone in the hospital room with Rose. Rose, who had been wearing a smile on her face the whole time, instantly turned gloomy the moment my brother walked out the door. "Julia, you've come back too, haven't you?" Her words sent a chill through me. Could it be that Rose has also been reborn? It's still unclear what she intends to do, so I can't risk exposing myself. I feigned ignorance and said, "What's all this about coming and going?" "What are you talking about, sister-in-law?" Rose gave me a suspicious look, her fierce expression softening slightly. "Nothing, it's just strange. Why didn't you stop me from drinking that fake wine this time? Do you want to see me die?" I turned my head and looked at her very seriously, saying, "Sister-in-law, how can you say that? I tried to stop you from drinking that wine, but you insisted it was something good. You've just been brainwashed too much by the shopkeeper, actually. My brother is right, he's just too busy to spend time with you, which is why things turned out this way. Don't worry, I'll talk to him, and from now on, he'll make more time for you, and as for the child, don't worry, as long as you focus on recovering your health, you'll have another child in the future." At the mention of the child, Rose's face twisted for a moment before returning to normal. She then asked me a few more probing questions, all of which I answered flawlessly. She didn't get the answer she wanted and didn't want to continue chatting with me, so she simply said she was tired and needed to rest, then shooed me away. Due to active treatment, Rose was discharged from the hospital and returned home very quickly. Her body was still somewhat weak, but she could manage basic daily life without any issues. After my brother took care of her at home for just a couple of days, she urged him to go back to work. My brother was still a bit worried about her, but she managed to convince him. During the first few days my brother started working, I would occasionally check the surveillance footage. Rose didn't notice the surveillance either, completely convinced that no one was home, so she didn't hold back in anything she did or said. I heard her make a phone call to someone. "It was that bitch Julia who reported you. Do you want revenge? I can help you, but after it's done, I want 1 million, I know you have it, I want that bitch Julia dead." Watching Rose's ferocious expression on the surveillance footage, I decisively captured this segment of the video and reported it to the police. Rose sent me a message, saying that she had troubled me with her matters during this time, and she asked me to come home so she could cook for me. I sent a message to the police officer, and after receiving a reply, I leisurely headed home after work. Rose said she would cook for me, but in reality, when I got home, I saw my brother wearing an apron and bustling around. I silently helped him with the preparations. Before dinner began, Rose somehow produced a bottle of red wine and, smiling, poured half a glass for each of us. "Because of my troubles these past few days, I've made you siblings suffer, especially Julia. It's all my fault for not listening to you earlier, which led to losing money, ruining my health, and even arguing with you. Here, drink this wine as a way to forgive my foolish actions. From now on, let's get along just like before." She picked up her glass and downed the wine in one gulp. I pretended not to care and took a small sip, but didn't swallow it all. Instead, my brother was moved to tears by Rose's words and downed the entire half glass of wine in one gulp. After finishing her speech, Rose began urging us to eat. I had helped with the cooking, so I felt quite at ease eating the food. The wine was brought out by Rose, so I didn't dare drink too much. I thought I was being very cautious, but halfway through the meal, my head started to feel a bit dizzy. My brother had already passed out on the table before me. I fought through the dizziness and asked Rose, "What did you do?" Rose laughed almost maniacally. "In both this life and the last, it was you who caused my wine immortal baby not to be born. I want you to pay with your life to accompany my wine immortal baby in death." I haven't drunk much, but I'm biting the tip of my tongue to stay as clear-headed as possible. "What wine fairy baby? Are you still dreaming? That's all a scam," Rose retorted loudly. "Bullshit. I added another person as a friend, and they gave birth to a wine fairy baby. They even showed me a photo of the baby. It looks just like a normal person, and now, thanks to that wine fairy baby, they're earning 100,000 a day. You're the one blocking my path to wealth. You should just die. In my past life, you were the one who killed my wine fairy baby. This time, it's you meddling again, causing me to lose the wine and the child. You meddling bitch, you deserve to die." Rose glared at me fiercely, her face full of satisfaction as she watched me in such a sorry state. Behind her, a strange man slowly emerged, short and stout, with tattoos on his arms. I had never seen this man before, and my intuition told me he was the shopkeeper Rose had contacted. He walked over, wrapped his arm around Rose's waist, and praised, "You did really well. Once I kill them all, I'll take you back to my hometown to be my wife." "Great, great. I've long been fed up with that trash. If he hadn't insisted on the doctor performing surgery on me, how could the child in my belly have died? Just take me back, and I'm sure I can give birth to a little wine fairy for you. When that time comes, immense wealth will be ours." Rose looked at the man shyly. Even standing on tiptoe to give him a kiss, the man felt he already had victory in his grasp. He released Rose, picked up the kitchen knife, and started walking toward me. "It's you, you little wretch, who got my shop sealed and so many of my brothers arrested. I'll chop off your hands and feet first, then make you watch yourself die slowly. I won't let you die so easily. I'm going to torture you mercilessly, make you atone for my brothers." His face twisted with ferocity as he brandished a kitchen knife, about to slash at me. When the police finally broke through the door, watching Rose and that man being surrounded by the police, I finally felt relieved, closed my eyes, and fainted. When I woke up again, I was already lying in a hospital bed. The policewoman who had been in contact with me was sitting by my bedside. Seeing me open my eyes, she excitedly leaned in close to me. "You're awake. Can you hear me, Julia? Can you hear me?" I slowly nodded and asked in a hoarse voice, "How did things turn out?" The young woman smiled and said, "I knew you'd ask about this as soon as you woke up. Rose and that man have already been caught by us. With your surveillance footage, they won't be able to escape the charges. However, Rose's mental state is a bit strange. We suspect the drugs in the wine affected her, which is why she developed hysteria. Actually, this is also our fault for not noticing in time that another criminal had escaped. When we raided the small workshop, the shop owner happened to go out for a smoke and got away. Later, Rose contacted him again and explained the situation. At first, the shop owner didn't believe it, but Rose showed him your WeChat, and he remembered that he had indeed added you recently, with Rose's instigation. He blamed everything on you and conspired to kill you both before fleeing to the border. I licked my somewhat parched lips. Things were pretty much as I had guessed, but what does that have to do with my brother? He treated Rose so well, so why would Rose want to kill him? I voiced this question. The young lady's expression turned a bit strange. I asked Rose about this, and she said that since killing you was already a given, she might as well kill your brother too. That way, she could keep the entire 1 million for herself without worrying about anyone finding out she had so much money. Plus, she held a grudge against your brother because of the child. I think I understand now. She is absolutely obsessed with having a baby with wine and poem talent. I actively underwent a medical examination. Both my brother and I are physically fine. Rose never intended to poison us, so what she put in the hotel was just a sedative. I didn't drink much, which is why I managed to hold on until the police arrived. I actually knew there was something wrong with her wine at the time, but I took a sip because I wanted to step into the trap myself. Otherwise, how could the shop owner behind Rose have walked out so carelessly? After my brother woke up and learned everything, he was heartbroken and wanted to divorce Rose. After all, this was a matter between the two of them, so I didn't express my opinion. Later on, Rose and the shop owner were both convicted due to solid evidence. Both of them were sentenced to at least 3 years in prison, and Rose was also sent to a facility to overcome her drug addiction, living in agony every day. In fact, she never quit drinking, but she drank so little each day that my brother never noticed. After being imprisoned, she asked to see me every few days, but I always refused directly. I guessed what she wanted to say. It was nothing more than asking if I had been reborn and why I had killed her baby. My life is clear and transparent now, and there's no need to argue with someone who's not in their right mind. After my brother successfully filed for divorce, he was still in low spirits for a while. I heard that a colleague introduced him to a girl who is very gentle and beautiful, and the two of them are now dating. I've only heard about it, and I haven't paid much attention to what happened afterward. Everyone has their own life. Since our paths are different, there's no need to force ourselves to stay together. He's living well, and I'm living well too. That's enough. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My 10-year-old brother picked up a wine barrel from the road outside the village. He said it was very expensive white liquor inside. I thought the wine barrel was of dubious origin and told him to throw it away. He was unwilling. While we were pushing and shoving, all the wine spilled. Mom, Dad, Grandpa, and Grandma all came out when they heard the noise. My younger brother burst into tears, saying that all the good wine he had picked up was spilled by me. The adults were furious. They called me a jinx. They surrounded me and started punching and kicking. From then on, every time they drank, they would remember this incident and either curse or hit me. Finally, during one particularly violent beating, my father kicked me in the stomach. The village doctor said I would never be able to have children. From then on, I went from being a jinx to a money-losing burden. The year my brother turned 14, I was 17, he injured someone at school, and our family had no money to compensate. They sold me to the blind man in the neighboring village. Even the blind loved to hit people, and they hit harder than the others. Before a year had passed, I was beaten to death. Once again, I opened my eyes. My 10-year-old brother carried the wine barrel back to the yard. This time, I won't stop him. As expected of my Xiao Jia, you can even find wine from outside. In front of me, Grandma was dotingly patting my younger brother's head. I looked at all the familiar surroundings around me. I secretly marveled at the fact that I had actually been reborn. It was back to the day my brother brought the wine barrel home. In my past life, it was because of that barrel of wine that my misfortune began. This time, I will live. My parents heard the noise and came out of the house. Dad opened the lid of the wine barrel and took a sniff, his eyes instantly lighting up. This aroma is way more potent than wine. This kid has really made something of himself. Dad ruffled his younger brother's head. Mom kissed his cheek. Grandma was smiling on the side. I stood there, the February wind seeping through the holes in my clothes, chilling my bones. Let's have something good to drink today, Dad. Your precious grandson found some wine. Dad walked toward the house, calling out to Grandpa. Mother held my younger brother's hand, smiling as she ushered him into the house. I watched them in a daze, my feet rooted to the spot. In my past life, I always thought it was because I was too foolish. That's why they favored my younger brother. Until my brother caused trouble, they sold me to a blind man. Only then did I realize, it wasn't favoritism. They never cared about me at all. My brother was their treasure. When he got into trouble, they were willing to use money to help him. As for me, I was just a thing that could be exchanged for money. Tina, what are you standing there for, you stupid girl? Hurry up and move this barrel of wine inside. Grandma gave my arm a hard twist, her dark, slender nails digging into my flesh. It hurt so much. I quickly picked up the wine barrel, afraid that if I moved too slowly, Grandma would pinch me again. Just as I carried the wine barrel into the house, I got slapped on the head by my mom. Why are you so slow? Do you want to starve us to death? Hurry up and go get the dishes. If only you had a fraction of your brother's cleverness. I quickly ran into the kitchen and brought the dishes to the table one by one. The aroma of the hot dishes wafted into my nose, making my stomach growl, but I had no time to pay attention to it, only swiftly carrying the dishes, afraid that the food would get cold and I would be scolded by them again. While I was serving the dishes, They all took their seats one by one. The 8 immortals table was large, but there were only 5 stools, one for Dad, one for Mom, one for Grandpa, one for Grandma, and one for my younger brother. There was never a stool for me, Grandma said. Standing makes it easier to serve them. When I was little, I couldn't see the dishes on the table even when standing to eat. Later, as I grew taller, I could even see the top of everyone's head while standing to eat. Grandpa didn't like it, saying I wanted to ride on their heads. Later, they made me kneel to eat. I knelt until I left that home. Just as I knelt down to start eating, my father looked displeased. "Didn't you hear me say I'm drinking today? Where's the wine bowl?" I immediately stood up and rushed to the kitchen in a hurry, grabbing 5 wine bowls. Before I could even set them down, my mother scolded me again. "You idiot, why did you bring 5 wine bowls? Can't you use your brain? Your little brother is too young to drink." Grandpa cut her off. "What do you know? Jack found the wine. Let him have a taste." Mom forced a dry laugh. "Dad, Jack is only 10 years old, his body is still tender." Dad shot Mom a sidelong glance. "What do you women know? Jack is 10, it's time he learned to drink." Dad placed a wine bowl in front of my younger brother. "A real man who doesn't drink, the thing down below is fake. Look at that guy surnamed Lee at the village entrance. He looks handsome and proper, but he doesn't touch a drop of alcohol." And what happened? His wife ran off. Ha 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 ha. The whole table was amused by Dad. I joined in the laughter and filled all 5 wine bowls to the brim. As I was pouring for Grandma, my brother kicked me, my hand slipped, and I accidentally spilled the bowl meant for Grandma. Dad's slap arrived before the smell of alcohol could spread. I was knocked straight to the ground. Curses erupted one after another, pouring from everyone's mouths. "You useless girl, you can't even hold a bowl properly. You bring home treasures, and what do you bring? Bad luck. All the good wine is spilled. This is real gold and silver, worthless, jinx." My brother covered his mouth, laughing without hiding or blocking. I struggled to get up and silently refilled Grandma's bowl. When I brought the wine bowl to my younger brother, he mimicked Mom's words and said to me, "What did Mom just call you?" "Oh right, stupid pig. Ha ha ha, stupid pig, you stupid pig, you forgot to bring a wine bowl for yourself." I silently lowered my head. "He's the stupid pig, why doesn't he think about it? I don't even get to eat the meat at home. So how could I be qualified to drink?" Grandma patted my brother's head, looking at him as if he were some kind of treasure. "Jack is right, but if your sister gets drunk, who will wash the dishes later?" My brother suddenly understood. Dad smiled and beckoned to everyone. Come on, this is the wine that Jack found. Today we're all benefiting from his luck." Bottoms up. Dad and Grandpa drank it all in one gulp. Mom and Grandma took a small sip. Little brother spat it all out. "Ugh. Alcohol is so disgusting, I don't want to drink it anymore," he said as he poured the remaining wine in the bowl onto the ground. The whole family burst into laughter. Grandma picked up the large chicken leg, which I had never eaten before, and placed it in my brother's bowl. Never mind, our Jack should eat more meat. When you grow up and earn money, you can drink as much as you want," my younger brother said while chewing on a chicken leg. "When I make money in the future, I'll buy you better liquor, a bottle every day." The dinner table erupted in laughter once again. I stared expressionlessly at the wine stain on the floor. It was just spilled wine. I was slapped to the ground, but my brother made the whole family laugh. Soon, after several rounds of drinks, Grandma and Mom took a few sips and didn't drink any more. They said the wine tasted strange and they weren't used to it. Grandpa and Dad looked down on them for not knowing what's good. They drank bowl after bowl with pickles. I stood by, pouring them bowl after bowl. That night, more than half of the wine in the plastic bucket was gone. The moon climbed to the treetops, and the whole family had gone to sleep. I was shivering as I washed dishes in the yard. The night wind was too fierce. It could chill a person's blood to the bone. Finally finished everything, I caught sight of the wine barrel beside the table, almost forgot about it. I picked up that barrel of wine and headed toward the cellar. Unexpectedly, the lid wasn't fastened tightly and rolled off. I just noticed the almost invisible words on the lid: industrial alcohol, not for consumption. See, my past self wasn't wrong. You shouldn't drink things of unknown origin. I was stunned for a moment, then expressionlessly picked up the lid and put it back on. The cellar was just a few steps away, and I walked very slowly. The cold wind made me shiver, but it also made me exceptionally clear-headed. I told myself over and over again, in this life, I want to live. 3 o'clock in the middle of the night, I was awakened by my grandmother's scream. She was shouting at the top of her lungs, calling out my grandfather's name. Mom immediately got up and patted Dad, who was sound asleep beside her. "Bob, wake up, what's your mom yelling about in the middle of the night?" Dad didn't wake up. Whenever he drinks too much, he sleeps deeply. Mom grumbled as she put on her clothes and headed toward Grandma and Grandpa's room. Not long after, Mom came back in a flurry. After finding Dad still asleep, she gave him a hard kick. "Bob, still sleeping? Your dad has stopped breathing." My dad still didn't move. It was then that Mom noticed Dad, who usually snored like thunder, was completely silent today, as if guided by some unseen force. She reached out a finger to check his breathing. He was still breathing. Realizing what she had just done, she stomped her foot. "You scared me to death. Honestly, why drink so much? You're useless in an emergency." With that, she came to pull me and my brother, Tina, "Jack, both of you, get up and come with me to carry your grandfather." At this moment, every household in the village was sleeping soundly. Only in our home was there chaos and commotion. The 5 of us pushed the cart, carrying our motionless grandfather, and knocked on the village doctor's door. Grandpa was completely dead. The village doctor said that when he was brought in, his body was already cold. Grandma and Mom were wailing and crying. They couldn't understand how Grandpa, who had been shouting loudly during dinner, had suddenly died. The village doctor found the smell of alcohol on Grandpa unusual and asked what he had eaten or drunk. Mom and Grandma chimed in one after another: pickles, vinegar braised cabbage, and poached chicken, all things we eat regularly. It never occurred to them that the barrel of wine was the problem. After all, both of them drank it too, and nothing happened. I watched them chattering away, not saying a word. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, so how would I know so much? But my clever little brother still figured it out. "Mom, could it be that the barrel of wine I picked up from the highway is the problem?" The village doctor, with his extensive experience, sensed something fishy from just that one sentence. "Wine picked up from the highway? Could it be that what you drank was industrial alcohol?" The whole family looked utterly bewildered. Mom didn't know what industrial alcohol was, but she knew Dad had drunk it too. Just now, she couldn't wake him up. Mom's lips trembled. "What industrial alcohol? Can't drink it." The kid's dad drank it too. I couldn't even wake him up. The village doctor's eyes widened. "Oh no." Later, my father was transferred to the town health center. He had his stomach pumped several times before he was saved, but his body was still damaged. He went blind, but what he couldn't stand the most wasn't that he had gone blind. It was that his dick was broken. The industrial alcohol had burned the nerves, and that thing was no longer usable. His mother cried until she fainted in the hospital. My brother looked utterly bewildered. I wiped away the non-existent tears from the corners of my eyes and sighed with emotion. In my previous life, my father kicked me in the stomach, leaving me unable to bear children. In this life, my father became the one who couldn't bear children. Mom has to accompany Dad in the hospital. She told me to go home and pour out that industrial alcohol. In her view, it was all that stuff's fault. When I got home and was about to throw out the alcohol barrel, Grandma stopped me. She said nothing, staring at the wine barrel in a daze. After a long while, she muttered softly, as if speaking to herself, "If something can't be drunk, then just don't drink it. Why do you have to throw everything away at the drop of a hat? Jack is the lucky star of our family. The things he picks up always come in handy sooner or later." As she spoke, she, who had always been too weak to even move a chair, dragged half a bucket of industrial alcohol to the chicken coop and poured it into the vat. Then, she covered it with a blue cloth, hiding it from view. As she passed by me, Grandma pinched my arm hard. "If you dare tell your mother, watch your skin." I winced and covered the spot she had pinched, glancing furtively at the alcohol jar in the corner that looked no different from a water vat, then obediently nodded. During the day, Mom took care of Dad at the health center, and at night she came home to sleep. Every night, she would cry for a while. Overnight, Grandpa had died, and Dad was left disabled. The house was turned upside down. It was indeed hard to accept. Sometimes, Grandma would cry along with her. Later, my younger brother couldn't bear to watch anymore. He wiped away the tears from Mom and Grandma, saying, "Mom, Grandma, don't be too sad. I'm still here at home, and from now on, I'll be the pillar of the family. I'm so smart. I'm sure I'll make a lot of money in the future. When that time comes, you can rely on me, and I'll definitely give you a good life." Grandma and Mom cried and laughed, the 3 of them holding each other tightly. Every time they cried, I silently went about my work. There's just too much work at home these days. My mom has to arrange my grandfather's funeral and also take care of my dad at the health center. I'm the one doing all the work. It's the start of spring. And the 3 acres of land at home need to be plowed and sown. I have to get up before dawn every day to cook for the whole family, then I work in the fields until dark, and when I return to the house, I continue with more chores. My grandmother's legs aren't as nimble as they used to be, but her eyes are sharp and watchful. If I take even a short break, she scolds me. I'm busy all day long, barely touching the ground. I don't even have time to eat properly, let alone cry. But if I don't cry, in their eyes, it becomes a sin. That day, it rained in the afternoon. Early in the morning, I hurriedly cooked their meal and then went out to the fields. I didn't get a single bite of food myself. By evening, after finally waiting for everyone to gather for dinner, I didn't even bother with the dishes and immediately started shoveling rice into my mouth. My brother, seeing me wolfing down my food, remarked, "How can you still eat with such an appetite? Aren't you sad at all? I've never even seen you cry." During this time, Grandma and Mom had been holding back their emotions. My brother's words seemed to have given them an outlet to vent. Grandma and Mom put down their chopsticks, their eyes red as they roared at me. "Jack is right, the house is in such a state, and I haven't seen you shed a single tear, you heartless wretch. Jinx, all you know is how to eat. All I know is how to eat. Who do they think plowed the fields? Who cooked the food on the table? How could they say such things?" I felt wronged, my eyes wide open. Mom thought I was glaring at her and slapped me backhanded. I was knocked to the ground by a sudden slap. "What are you glaring at? What did I say wrong? If you had even a fraction of your brother's intelligence, you would have thrown away the industrial alcohol he brought back long ago. How could our family have ended up like this?" Grandma suddenly understood and immediately chimed in, "That's right, it's all because of you. You foolish girl, that our family has ended up like this. You're both my children, so why is your brother so smart while you're so stupid?" As they spoke, they began hitting and kicking me. My brother, who had been standing to the side, hesitated for a moment before joining the fight. "You caused me to lose my grandpa, you made Dad disabled, you're a jinx, you're an ungrateful wretch. We all drank, except you. I think you're deliberately not drinking. If it weren't for you, Dad and Mom could have given me a little brother, but now it's all gone." Hearing these words, Grandma and Mom became even angrier. Their fists and feet fell on my head, my back, and my stomach one after another. I instinctively protected my stomach. In my previous life, I was sold because my stomach was kicked and damaged, making me unable to have children. This time, I can't let it get kicked again. This kind of family brawl continued until my father was discharged from the hospital, as expected. Dad joined them when he returned. "If you hadn't been pouring drinks for us all night that day, would your grandpa and I have drunk so much?" I went from being utterly confused at first to gradually becoming numb. Every time I was beaten, I kept thinking, this industrial alcohol is indeed quite potent. It has messed up the minds of this entire family. That barrel of wine was clearly carried home by the younger brother. It killed the grandfather, make Dad disabled. The one who turned the house upside down, it was clearly him, yet, instead of blaming him, they all point the finger at me. After Dad came home, the atmosphere at home became even more chaotic. The disability certificate sent by the village chief was thrown far away by him. He stayed indoors all day, lying in bed and cursing the farm work in the fields that was originally there. Now it's just me and my mom holding everything together, but there are still many kind-hearted people in the village. Knowing about the misfortune that has befallen our family, led by the village chief, villagers take turns helping us with the farm work every day. Even so, my mother and I were still extremely busy. We worked from morning till night every day. My younger brother wanted to help in the fields, but my grandmother wouldn't allow it. She said he was destined to become an official, and that dirt and mud would affect his fortune. Dad's temper is getting worse and worse. In the past, my dad would only hit me when he drank too much. Now, he hits everyone. The whole family avoids him. I've long been used to being beaten. My dad wouldn't dare hit my mom or grandma too hard, but my brother, the apple of everyone's eye, who's always been pampered, how could he stand it? I can't remember how many times it had happened, but my brother finally had enough. He blocked my dad's fist. "I don't want you as my father anymore. You're just a cripple who only knows how to hit people." You look down on that Lee family at the village entrance, but I think he's better than you now. At least he can help our family with the farming. What about you? You're always saying other people's wives ran away. Their wives ran away. If you dare hit me again, I'll tell my mom. And she'll run away too. Then you'll be a man with a runaway wife. My dad was furious. That day, my grandmother came to the field to find me and my mom, leaning on her cane. The nearly 90-year-old woman was so out of breath from running. By the time we rushed home, My brother had already been hung from the beam and beaten by my father for quite a while. When my brother saw the three of us, he thought his saviors had arrived. And his eyes lit up. "Mom, you should be with Uncle Lee. We don't want this blind man anymore. I see Uncle Lee in our field every day after school. He's always smiling, and he's so strong. If you're with him, you can give me lots of little brothers." Grandma quickly covered my brother's mouth. I glanced at my brother without showing any expression. Does this fool even know what he's saying? Does he want to push Mom into the fire? In the village chief's schedule, Uncle Lee comes to help us with farm work every day at 5 in the afternoon. He gets out of school at 5 every day, so naturally, the person he sees is Uncle Lee. My dad has completely lost his mind. Even though he can't see, it doesn't stop him from grabbing whatever he can and smashing it. He smashed things while shouting, "How dare you cheat on me behind my back? I'll take your life." Mom clenched her fists, exhausted from hard work and still being wronged. She was even angrier than my dad. She turned around and started wrestling with my dad. Later, the village chief personally came to explain, and the misunderstanding was resolved. However, the speaker may have no intention, but the listener takes it to heart. The seed of suspicion took root and sprouted in my father's heart. Whenever my mother and I came home a little later, my father would start to become suspicious. At best, they speak with sarcasm. At worst, they resort to physical violence. Although my father is blind, he is tall and strong. My mother's face is almost always covered in bruises. Sometimes, I think my mother is foolish. Why didn't she run when my dad hit her? Now that he's blind, can he outrun her? I decided to help my mom. Another night when Dad was hitting someone, I took advantage of the chaos to open the door and pointed outside. Finally, Mom ran out. She finally learned her lesson. I nodded with satisfaction. After that, every time Dad had the thought of hitting someone, Mom would run outside. But I never expected that the time she ran away would become longer and longer. It started with half an hour, then later 3 hours. I always wondered whose house my mom ran away to. Later, I found out she ran away to Uncle Lee's house, escaped to Uncle Lee's bed. Mom really got together with Uncle Lee. 2 months after Grandpa died, the village chief sent over a sum of money. Everyone else was asleep. Only my mom and I were awake. The village chief placed a thick stack of oiled paper into my mother's hands. He said that because my grandfather had passed away, the state had provided a sum of compensation money. I stared at that stack of money, stunned for a long time. So it turns out, I wasn't the only one who could be exchanged for money. Grandpa's life can also be exchanged for money. The village chief continued. Now the township's policies are better. When someone in the family passes away, a sum of money is issued. For someone like Bob, who has a disability certificate, there are even more benefits. My mother seemed lost in thought. As soon as the village chief left, she went out the door. That direction leads to Uncle Lee's house. I picked up the hoe and went out without making a sound. As I passed by Uncle Lee's house, I heard the deliberately lowered voices of a man and a woman. The voices were muffled and unclear. After a while, I heard the sound that used to come from my parents' room late at night. I walked toward the vegetable patch with a blank expression. I finished plowing the field and went home, but my mother still hadn't returned. I finished sweeping the house, and my mother still hadn't returned. I was feeding the chickens in the yard when my mother finally returned. She lowered her head and quietly asked me, "Tina, are they awake yet?" I looked at her radiant, beaming face and shook my head. My mother, for the first time ever, patted my head and said, "Good girl." That feeling was like being briefly treated as one of us. Then, she took the dustpan from my hand and, humming a tune, started feeding the chickens. I really wanted to tell her, "Mom, keep it a bit more hidden. Dad is blind, but Grandma isn't." She has asked me more than once, trying to get me to say whether Uncle Lee often comes to help in the fields. That seed of suspicion has also taken root in Grandma's heart, although his son is blind and disabled. But she does not allow her daughter-in-law to cheat. I thought that paper could never wrap up fire. Mom and Uncle Lee's affair will eventually be discovered by Grandma and brought to light. By then, it will be another storm of bloodshed. It turns out that even after being reborn, I am still too kind-hearted. Mom and Uncle Lee's affair won't be brought to the surface, because the two of them have already overturned the table. That night, my drunk father hit my mother again, after a loud slap. My mother ran out again. My father had nowhere to vent his anger. Without a word, he swung a chair and smashed it onto me. I silently endured as always, but instead, it made him think he wasn't hitting hard enough. He gradually got carried away, grabbing whatever he could find and throwing it at me. A blind man's blows are very painful. I knew it in my past life. At first, I remained silent as usual, until my father smashed a wine jar over my head. Blood gushed out. Grandma and my younger brother followed the sound and came out. They saw me with my head bleeding. I was just about to call out to them for help, but I saw Grandma covering my brother's eyes and quietly walking out of the room. Grandma closed the door and locked it from the outside. There was a blind demon in the house. They left me with the demon without hesitation. I lay on the ground, gasping for breath. My face was sticky and wet. I didn't know if it was blood or tears. Dad followed the sound and came to hit me, stumbling and falling on top of me, so heavy, so painful. I was so overwhelmed that I didn't notice my father's unusual behavior at all. A year ago, I started my period. Even though I ate little, my chest slowly began to swell. My father pinned me down, and this strange yet familiar sensation reminded him of the past. Now, he just can't, not that he doesn't want to. He swallowed, his breath reeking of alcohol as it hit my face. "My Tina, you've grown up." He grabbed my chest with one hand, while the other yanked at his own belt. My mind went blank, completely unprepared for things to turn out this way. I remembered my previous life, the first night after being sold to the blind man in the neighboring village. He forced me to submit, ignoring my cries. His actions then were exactly the same as my father's now, pressing down on me. I screamed in despair. I don't know where the strength came from, but I swung the nearby stool and smashed it on his head. Dad covered his head and let go of me. I quickly rolled over and got up, using both hands and feet. I climbed out through the window, dragging my heavy body. I hid behind the water vat in the chicken coop. I heard my father's furious roar, and the door thudded as he pounded on it. Fortunately, Grandma had just locked the door from the outside. Fortunately, I was gasping for breath. Perhaps due to excessive blood loss, my mind was hazy. Before long, I passed out. When I opened my eyes again, I was awakened by noise. I heard the deliberately lowered voices of a man and a woman. "Are you sure they're all asleep? Stop asking. Hurry up." Those voices. "It's Uncle Lee and Mom." I was dazed and about to call for help when a familiar scent hit my nose. Industrial alcohol. Peering through the cracks of the water vat, I saw Uncle Lee and my mother splashing something around the house. What are they trying to do? Before I could figure it out, Uncle Lee threw the burning match onto the house. Sparks shot up into the sky. "That's it, let's go." Uncle Lee grabbed my mom and quickly left. I stared blankly as the fire slowly grew, my mind completely empty. Before long, Grandma and my younger brother rushed in from outside. Grandma shouted for help while calling out to my brother, "Oh my God, it's on fire. Jack, hurry. There's water in the water vat in the chicken coop. Go get it." The younger brother trotted all the way to the chicken coop. Seeing the two water vats, he felt troubled. "Jack, what are you doing? Hurry up and fetch the water." Seeing that the younger brother still hadn't arrived, the fire grew even more intense. Grandma panicked and raised her voice to urge him on. The younger brother casually opened a water vat and filled a wooden bucket to the brim. He had no idea the vat he had dipped into contained industrial alcohol that should have been discarded. The younger brother hurried off, breaking into a light jog. Drops of alcohol splattered onto him, covering most of his body. The moment the water was thrown, what was meant to extinguish the fire became fuel to feed the flames. His younger brother and grandmother had no time to question what was happening. The sudden, leaping flames, like ghosts, licked at my brother's body. In an instant, he became a man on fire. Terrified, he ran frantically around the yard. The faster he ran, the more fiercely the flames burned. The clothes were soon burned to nothing. The younger brother cried out in pain. The grandmother screamed in fright. The fire on the house had already spread to the roof amid the chaos, illuminating the entire night sky. I hid in the chicken coop, so excited that I fainted again. The next day, I woke up in the health center. Surrounding me were doctors and nurses in white coats, as well as police officers in uniform. The police asked me how I got the injury on my head. I replied, "Mom and Dad were fighting. Mom ran away, and Dad took it out on me, hitting me with a wine jar." The onlookers frowned. The police then asked me why I was in the chicken coop. I replied, "Grandma locked the house, and Dad, who was drunk, pinned me down. He took off his pants." I was scared, so I hit him with a stool, climbed out the window, and then hid in the chicken coop the whole time. Soft curses whispered around. The police then asked me if I had seen anything in the yard. I replied, "Uncle Lee and Mom." A collective gasp of surprise. The police officer's final question, "Did you know about the industrial alcohol in the chicken coop? Where did it come from?" I replied, "My brother found it on the highway." At first, they thought it was alcohol and drank it, Grandpa died, and Dad was left disabled. Later, Mom told Grandma to throw it away, but she couldn't bear to and hid it in the chicken coop. Angry curses erupted one after another. Karma, a family of beasts. My 4 sentences exposed all the ugliness in my family. I blinked innocently at the police officer. Officer, where are my family members? The police officer sighed. First, focus on recovering your health here. We'll talk about other things later. I nodded obediently. Not long after, all the onlookers had left. I lay on the hospital bed and fell asleep shortly after, for the first time. I found the smell of hospital alcohol so pleasant. I slept very soundly. Originally, I could have been discharged in 3 days, but the entire health center was worried about my psychological trauma, so they kept me for more than 10 extra days. All the doctors and nurses voluntarily shared my medical expenses. They comforted me, saying, "Little Tina, just eat, drink, and sleep peacefully in the hospital. Don't think about anything else." I was very obedient. Eat when it's time to eat. Drink when it's time to drink, and sleep when it's time to sleep. Having lived 2 lifetimes, I've never felt this good before. When I was discharged from the hospital, I was a full 5 pounds heavier than before. On the day of my discharge, the police escorted me with a police car leading the way. After getting in the car, they finally confessed to me. Mom and Uncle Lee had gotten together. Because of Grandpa's pension and Dad's constant violence, they wanted to burn Dad to death. This was intentional arson and murder, with solid evidence and a severe nature. Both of them were sentenced to life in prison. The door was locked, and Dad couldn't escape, so he was burned to death in the fire. My brother was also burned to death. He accidentally grabbed industrial alcohol while trying to put out the fire. Now, only Grandma and I are left at home. I lowered my head. The police thought I was sad and comforted me. "Little Tina, don't be sad, you're still young. And life has just begun." Sad? How could I be? I just couldn't hold back the corners of my mouth. Before long, we arrived home. Grandma sat in the yard, staring blankly at the charred, blackened house. "Your grandmother has been traumatized. She hasn't spoken a word these past few days. Just staring like this. You, take care of yourselves." I thanked the police and watched them get into their car. I closed the courtyard gate, walked over to Grandma, and gently touched her shoulder. "Grandma, are you missing Grandpa, Mom, Dad, and my little brother?" Grandma didn't reply, but I could clearly feel her shoulders trembling. "Don't be sad, Grandma, you'll see them again soon. The village is going to help us rebuild our house." I refused. The main house is gone. But the side rooms are still there. Now it's just me and Grandma. That's enough. Life has returned to how it was before. Grandma still doesn't speak, sitting in the yard on a chair every day. The number of people in the household has sharply decreased. The only person I need to serve now is just one, yet I am busier than ever, busy with reading. The uncles and aunts at the health center took pity on me. They gave me many books, and I don't want to let them down. Grandma didn't speak, and I enjoyed the peace. The house was quiet and peaceful, and my mind was free from distractions. I learned exceptionally fast. A month later, the village chief brought another sum of money, saying it was Dad's compensation. "Tina, this is the money donated by the villagers together, and I also helped your family apply for the subsidy for impoverished households. This family is shattered. I am underage, and my grandmother is elderly." The villagers felt heartbroken, thinking that my future days would be very difficult. They have no idea that my life has never been better. Some time passed. One rainy afternoon, Grandma spoke up unexpectedly. "Sweetie, you don't mind having an old lady like me around, do you?" I smiled. How could that be? If it weren't for Grandma's favoritism and ignorance, how could I have ended up like this? I brought the money given by the village chief from the room and placed it on Grandma's lap. "How could that be, Grandma? From now on, I'll make sure you eat well and dress well." Upon hearing my words, Grandma's dim, yellowed eyes welled up with tears. "If I hadn't kept that barrel of industrial alcohol, child, do you think the way our family ended up is my fault?" I blinked and comforted her. "Grandma, don't blame me for speaking the truth. The one at fault should be Jack. If he hadn't randomly brought that alcohol barrel home, on the day of the fire, he had already escaped with you, but he still came back as if possessed. During the fire, they happened to choose the vat containing industrial alcohol. It was his fate." Grandma suddenly came to her senses. Yes, you're right. It was his fate, his fate." Sob, sob. "He ruined a perfectly good family. He's the real jinx." I nodded with satisfaction while also sighing with emotion. People must still live well. Once dead, everything is gone. Even a beloved child can instantly turn into a harbinger of misfortune. After that day, It was as if Grandma had come back to life. She started going around telling everyone her sad story. She said she lost her husband overnight and her son was left disabled, and her daughter-in-law was a real tramp who ruined the family. The villagers, seeing her pitiful state, would occasionally bring things from their homes to comfort her. Unexpectedly, she tasted the sweetness and became greedy. Every day, she would walk into others' houses, plop down on a chair, and start sobbing and wiping away tears. Once or twice was tolerable, 5 or 6 times. The villagers were not fools either. On the surface, they treated her politely, but in secret, they all looked down on her. She remained completely unaware, and her words grew increasingly absurd. I was born with a hard life, and I only gave birth to one son, Bob. Back then, my mother-in-law looked down on me. Ever since that kid Jack was born, I always thought good days were coming. Who knew the old man would die overnight and the eldest son would end up disabled? That slut of Jack's mother actually hooked up with someone else. They both ended up in prison, probably still having a good time. Who knows if that girl Tina will take after her mother? Look at the flesh on her chest now. TSK, she might just be a little slut too, but we could ask for a higher bride price. It's just that she's obsessed now, reading and writing day and night. What's the point of her reading? If she had even a fraction of Jack's smarts, would our family be in this state? After all, it's still a boy that's needed. What use is a girl? If only it had been her who was burned to death back then, not Jack. How wonderful that would have been. These words, in the end, still reached my ears. I said nothing, only gazing at the sky above. The sky is very blue, and the wind blowing on my face carries a hint of coolness. Autumn has arrived. The mice that rested all summer have started eating the grain again. It's time to start exterminating the mice. If we don't poison them quickly, they'll eat up all the grain in the house. I went to the village committee to get rat poison and then poured it in various places around the house. My hand slipped, and the rat poison accidentally spilled into the rice jar. Oh no, this jar of rice can no longer be eaten. I carried the rice jar to the back hill and threw it away, jar and all. That night, I cooked noodles. Grandma never liked eating noodles, but she knew she could only rely on me now, so she pretended to ask casually, "Why are we having noodles today?" I answered offhandedly, "The rice was bitten by mice and got dirty, so I threw it out along with the jar in the back mountain." Grandma slammed her chopsticks down. "You little brat," as if realizing she hadn't held back her words. She paused, her tone softening. "Throw it away just because it was bitten by a rat? Can't you wash it and eat it?" I slurped a mouthful of noodles. "Grandma, of course not. Rats are full of bacteria and viruses." Grandma glared at me. I smiled and patted her hand. "Grandma, we have money now. Tomorrow, I'll go to town and buy a new bag of rice." Grandma was still grumbling, blaming me for wasting food. I buried my head in my noodles. Her scolding went in one ear and out the other, leaving not a single word behind. The next day, I pushed the cart to town to buy rice. As I passed by the back hill, I glanced at the spot where I had thrown the rice yesterday. The rice jar was still there, but the rice was gone. I smiled knowingly. That mouse is truly something, throwing it so far, yet it can still smell its way back. After buying the rice, I wandered around the town for a while. I bought a few pieces of meat that I had never eaten before. I bought a few new clothes that I had never worn before. As I wandered around, I lost track of time. When I came to my senses, the sun was almost setting. Oh no, I forgot to leave food for Grandma. I wonder if she's hungry. I hurriedly pushed the bike back to the village. Just as I reached the village entrance, the village chief grabbed me. He told me to rush to the health clinic. "Your grandmother is foaming at the mouth. It's terrifying." I was greatly alarmed. I turned and ran straight to the clinic, completely forgetting about the cart, but in the end, I still didn't make it in time. By the time I arrived at the clinic, panting and out of breath, my grandmother had already passed away. The doctor recognized me. "Tina, is that your grandmother inside?" I nodded, tears falling from my eyes. The last incident was too tragic. He remembered me, this unfortunate girl, and also remembered my malicious grandmother. After receiving my affirmative answer, the doctor suddenly changed his previously regretful expression and patted my head. "Your grandmother ingested rat poison. According to regulations, we have already reported it to the police. When the police arrive, just answer their questions truthfully. It's just a routine procedure. Don't be too sad." I nodded again, tears falling to the ground. After a while, the police arrived. The same officer as last time. His reaction was the same as the doctor's. "It's you again. Is your grandmother inside?" I nodded with red eyes. As the doctor had predicted, The police conducted a routine inquiry afterward. I answered truthfully. The policeman patted my shoulder and said, "Sigh, live well." With that, he turned and walked away. I lowered my head and walked to the corner, looking dejected. I'm almost at my limit too. I can't hold back this smile anymore. A month later, I received my grandmother's pension. Combined with the pensions from my grandfather and father, it was enough for me to leave the countryside and find a good school to study at. The village chief and a group of villagers saw me off at the village entrance. The village chief handed me the land deed with my name on it. "All right, go out and study, make your way in the world. When you're tired of wandering, just come back home." I tucked the land deed into my bag. Everyone chimed in with their own words. "Tina, take good care of yourself. Tina, study hard. Tina, don't be sad, don't be upset." How could I be sad? How could I be upset? I'm so happy I could almost laugh out loud. In my previous life, they sold my life for a sum of money. In this life, I used their lives to obtain a sum of money. Where even now, from now on, Tina will live well. Truly, live well for yourself. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.